Hello, my name is Greer Carr with Farmers Insurance. Been in the area for over 20 years. My office is right out here on the street in front of you. I'd like to talk to you about the important things about insuring your home. For the home, for most people, it is probably the most and biggest investment they'll ever make in their lifetime. And to do that, you want to make sure you have the right coverage with the right company at a fair price. We can all tell stories and have horror stories of making sure that people that you know of that have not had the correct coverage. So first of all, make sure you have it correctly insured with a good company, a stable rated company, an A+ rated company that has few complaints with the Department of Commerce and Insurance on filing claims, that have generally pay out their claims. The next time, you've talked about inspection of the homes, which is important with your inspection company. You also want to make sure that property qualifies for the type of property. You've talked about different types of loans as far as renovations. So maybe a home that you're buying to renovate will need a different type of insurance policy than it does to actually live in. So if there's a step process that you may be buying a foreclosed home, that you need a policy that you're going to be, that it has lots of damage to it, that you're not going to be able to live into it, move into it, or live in it for months. You want to make sure you have probably a special form called builder's risk policy to take care of that policy. There's a lot of foreclosures out there on the market for you to buy to get good values at, but make sure that you have the policy and you tell your company and your agent the type of risk that it is, so that you have no surprises when you do get in there, because you want to make sure if a fire comes or a tornado comes that you have the policy that's going to pay off if something happens to your home from the time you sign off on it to the time you close on it in the future if you ever move out. So, but let's talk about the different types of. Also, we talk about qualifying as an individual. Now, what does that mean? Just like you qualify for a mortgage, you have to qualify for insurance. There are companies that are going to, actually some companies outright will reject you if you do not qualify from a credit standpoint. There are some companies that will reject you if you do not actually, if you have too many claims. So, just as always, remember, we often hear about cars and having claims. Homes and claims are a big problem too. We all have had storms over the last year. Well, we know storms throughout the country have affected people's homes. Well, you know, you can have too many claims with the insurance companies, and oftentimes you will either pay more or even sometimes be totally rejected by some companies, because each company, just like each mortgage company, has different underwriting criteria. But just as you qualify as an individual, you qualify for your homeowner's insurance. But some of the important parts that you want to make sure that you take care of like we talked about the dwelling, you want to make sure if it is a homeowner's policy. Let me run through some homeowners policies. Bet you didn't know that there was this many choices. You have a DP1, a DP2, a DP3, a DP5, a DP6, a DP7, a DP8. Now, if you want to raise your hand and tell me exactly what your homeowner's policy is that you currently have, whether it be a renter's, a condo's, do any of you know? Probably not. It's important that you know the coverage that you have on your home, because each one of those policies has different coverages which may or may not protect you in the home you're going to get. It's very important, and that's why good food's not cheap, cheap food's not good. Guess what? It's the same way homeowners. Because again, we can get it. If price is the issue, you can make it cheap. If you want coverage to protect you, protect your dwelling, to make sure that you have the right coverage. Some of the most common type of claim today is, guess what? Water damage. Now, say, well, water, you mean rain in my roof? No, I'm talking about water from a sink, a leaky faucet, not repaired. It's why it's important to have a home inspected, because you make sure you have a good plumbing system. You want to make sure that you have a good home inspected, make sure that you have a properly vented air conditioning system and properly plumbed air conditioning system, so it puts the water out where it needs to be, not in your home where you have rotten wood. You also want to make sure that you have a good roof. But many things can affect your policy and what you have coverage for and what is covered and what is not covered. And many policies out there will make it less expensive just to get it cheap, not necessarily the best coverage for you. Personal property. Also on structures, you also want to make sure that if you have separate structures on your property, such as pools, fences, barns, garages, those things are not automatically covered on your policy. And oftentimes these policies are packaged policies, so they cover some amount of separate structures. But if you have then put in a pool and you didn't call your insurance company, or if you built a big barn or garage and you didn't add the coverage, you may not be properly covered. On dwelling, you want to make sure that you have a replacement cost policy, one that puts it back in today's dollars, not actually what it would cost. Because a perfect example is today, as you go looking at homes, you're going to get great deals in the home market because they're all underpriced, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to cost less money to build it back. Because oftentimes we heard the dirty word inflation. Well, building costs have still gone up. Home values have gone down. So as you buy your home, that's not what you need to insure it for. You need to insure it for what it takes to put it back. Very key part. Don't make a mistake in insuring your most important asset. Personal property. You want to make sure you have replacement costs on your goods. If you have TVs, you see TVs all the time. Even coming up down the road here, a TV is $25. Well, guess what? The 27-inch, the 37-inch, is that replacement cost? Is that what it would take for you to go out and replace the TV in today's dollars? You want to make sure that you have TVs just like this computer here. You might be able to buy one real cheap in a classified ad somewhere, but the fact of it is you want new for old. You want the money from your insurance company that's going to take to replace it back, not actually what's known as the ACV, actual cash value. So the key word, you want replacement cost, not actual cash value. You want an all peril policy, not a named peril policy. Why? All peril is everything's included except what is excluded. And named peril is name them one by one. Now, we all know real quickly how long is it easier to name what is covered or name what is excluded? That's going to be a totally different list, but I tell you, I'd want a policy that's going to only name the exclusions because they can't name them all. So you want an all peril policy. Sure, there's going to be a few exclusions such as flood. No homeowner's policy wherever you buy it from covers flood. Make sure if you're in a floodplain, your real estate person would tell you, your broker, your mortgage company would tell you, but does that mean if you're not in a flood that you can't buy flood? No, anybody can buy flood insurance anywhere. So if you want to make sure that you're well protected, buy the flood insurance. And the good news is if you're not in a floodplain, flood insurance is very inexpensive. Who issues flood policies? Only one place, the federal government, called FEMA. Now, many companies, insurance companies that you deal with will write you a flood policy, but it's all written through FEMA, underwritten by FEMA, and serviced by FEMA. But every home can buy a flood policy. And as we know from Nashville, Tennessee, living here all my life, it's very important. All the flooding in the Midwest, down in Mississippi, make sure if you think you're by a creek or waterway, get a flood policy. Liability. Why is liability so important? You want to make sure you have enough liability on your homeowner's policy that covers the value, at least, of the home. Now, granted, your value should also take into place your assets because, again, insurance is the transfer of risk from you to the insurance company. You're paying a premium to transfer your risk to the insurance company. You want to make sure that you have the amount of insurance that is necessary to protect your assets. Key part, because again, anything can happen to you from a personal liability on your property, off your property, would come off your homeowner's insurance. Medical payments, every home policy in the state of Tennessee is required to have medical payments of no fault medical. Okay. Other options that you may want to cover, such as jewelry, very big, but make sure you talk to your agent about covering optionals. But thank you very much on your homeowner's insurance.